I'm going to share some things with you guys today because there's been so much in the news about young people who are committing suicide. Famous people committing suicide is just too much. So I want to share my story. So back when I was in college, this would have been 1975, 1976. And that was one of the toughest years of my life because, as some of you may have known from watching some of my other videos, I was reared in a backcountry town with two-track roads and the nearest neighbor, quarter of a mile down the road. And I was born in Chicago, but my parents moved us up to this rural town when I was 9 years old. And from 9 years old to 18, I lived there and went to school. We were the only black family. Now, being the only black family in that area, I didn't do a lot of dating. I didn't really have a social life in high school, so I didn't learn some of the social mores, some of the social ways that you learn when you're an active teenager with a dating life and yada, 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 all the developmental things that go with that. So I spent most of my time in the 70s. They had things called the Jesus people. And they were just gung-ho for God. And I was in a singing group. I was a Jesus people. And I was in a singing group. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I was pretty much a straight-laced kid. And I spent all of my time in speech, in drama, in my Christian singing group. And those were my extracurricular activities growing up other than working. So when it came time to go to college, I didn't know who the heck I was. I'm up there all of a sudden with a bunch of black people. Here I am, blackest thing on the campus almost, and I'm talking white. I'm sorry, that's how I grew up. I had no clue I was talking white, all right? And so I was getting rejected by a lot of black people because I was very promiscuous. Look, we used to call it in the 70s being on the wild. I was on the wild. I didn't know how to handle myself, handle the attention I was getting from guys. I was just a hot, smoking mess. And I think it was around the time that I found out that I was pregnant with my son, which, as I said, we started college in September of 75. By the end of September of 75, I was pregnant. I knew I was pregnant, even though the doctor said it was too early to tell. And I'm having morning sickness. I was just a mess. I was an emotional wreck because I knew that I was being rejected socially by a lot of the girls because I was on the wild. And I knew that I didn't know how to navigate this dating thing with guys. Please. My son's father, I told him I'd come braid his hair. And got up from there, left there, pregnant. One time, I slept with this guy. Take a breath. And his hair never got braided. I got up with a child whom I loved dearly. Anyway, during that semester, I had tried to kill myself. I was in the deepest depths of despair. I didn't know which way was up. And I've got the scars right now where I tried to slit my wrist, although as I've grown, they've gone up here now. They're not down here. And I think back to that, and I think about the fact that now we had a dorm person, a resident agent, or RA, I forget, resident something, and nobody really attended to my needs. It was like, if somebody tries to kill themselves and you got it, my roommate had to take bleach and try to get the blood out of the floor and everything. There was just no care, no intervention or anything for me. And I'm grateful that it didn't take. and that I didn't really know how to do this right, or I would have been a total goner. Okay. Uh, but in situations like that, I'm sure that maybe by now the resident agents are taught that if you have somebody that's trying to commit suicide, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that they get the medical, the mental health care that they need. And I should have been hospitalized. A bunch of that never happened. That was the first time I tried to take myself out. Now, the second time that I tried to take myself out, and I'm going to call it that going forward because, YouTube didn't word suicide and all that. So, it was toward the end of my marriage. I've only been married twice. It was toward the end of my second marriage. Now, I remember feeling like the walls were closing in on me. And I felt like I really just couldn't even breathe. And I remember I was working on my doctorate. Go back to the other videos, find out all that mess meant. I was like really into my schoolwork, trying to work on my doctorate. And I had gotten depressed. So my primary care physician put me on this medication. And when I told her, I said, I don't want any kind of addictive medication. It was Paxil. And she said, I guarantee you this is not addictive or anything. So I started taking my Paxil. Well, then things got worse and she doubled the dose. And I just was totally no good. All of a sudden, the depression got worse. It was heavier. I couldn't function. And I needed to talk to the academics department of my school and tell them, look, I can't function. I don't want to drop out. Can you work with me? And they wound up, one person after another, I wound up talking to the chair of the department that I was in criminal justice, which I can remember the man's name. And I told him what was going on. And when I mentioned to him that the doctor had doubled up on my medication, he said, first thing you need to do, and he was taking a big chance because I'm sure they got rules about don't give any medical advice and everything. But this guy must have been a doctor or something. First thing you got to do is stop taking twice the medication. Come up off of that right now. And the school worked with me because I was getting toward exams and everything. They worked with me and gave me some time off and some time to finish all of that. Now, in the middle of this, I remember going to work. I got out of my car. And when you walk up toward the building, you come down this little pathway. It's concrete leading up to the doors, this double doors. I remember catching my reflection in that glass door and thinking, I'm just going to take myself out. I'm just tired of this. I'm tired. Now, having a mental health background, I knew, okay, Linda, where did that come from? And the next thing I did was when I walked in there, I chose two people that I trusted. And I called them both in a meeting. And I told them, I said, this is the name of my therapist. If you see any behaviors in me that concern you, you have my permission to call her. And one of them was my boss, and one of them was the girl, the secretary. And I said, got my permission to call her and tell her what you're seeing. So my next session with my doctor, I told her, I said, these are the two people I've given permission to know whatever the heck you got to tell them out of my records. If they call you, you can freely discuss that with them. And I told them that I had done that. Well, then I go into this thing where, girl, I'm not showing up to work. I'm calling in sick, not answering the phone, not bathing, not dressing, not combing my hair. And they got concerned about it, and they called my therapist. Now, I found out later that they were all in it. Now, I'm in Grand Rapids. I found out later that they were all in a meeting in Detroit. And they were so concerned that they called my therapist from Detroit and told her what was going on. And I remember the phone just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And I would not answer. I wouldn't answer nobody's phone, girl. I mean, beautiful day outside, all the curtains drawn. I'm not talking to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I ain't answered nobody's phone. But something told me to answer the phone. It was my therapist. And she demanded that I get in there. She made me an appointment the next day. So I made myself get up, comb my hair, brush my teeth. I made it through a shower. I drove myself over to Pine Rest. And I remember when it was time to get out of the car, oh my goodness, I thought I had on lead boots. I couldn't get out the car. It was like, oh my goodness, it was like everything it took. It looked like every force of gravity decided to concentrate on my poor little body. And I dragged myself in there. And when she took one look at me, she said, I'm going to commit you. That's how bad a shape I was in. Now, in long story short, she told me I'm okay. I was seeing padded cells and thinking that if I was committed, I was going to be in this white room with padded walls. And I just knew that if I was so fragile that if that's the condition I was in and if that was the environment I had to be in, I was going to totally lose it and no thank you. So I was able to talk her out of just committing me because she's ready to commit me against my will. That's how bad I was. And she said, okay, all right. She said, don't BS these people. She used those words with me. Don't BS these people. She said the whole word. And she said, I'm going to send you over here to this building for an evaluation. I don't want you to BS them. You tell them the truth about everything that I will consider enrolling you outpatient. So that's what wound up happening. So long story short, I was in outpatient. I was off work for like 8 weeks while I was going into intensive therapy, but I would get to go home at the end of every day. So some kind of way I knew that doubling up on my dose caused me to feel suicidal. And I knew that I needed to tell somebody. So I told you, I'm having suicidal thoughts. That's what I told the 2 people I trusted in the office. I'm having suicidal thoughts. So if I go missing in action, then you call my therapist. And because they did that, that saved me. But that's how deep I was. Now that would have been a drug induced. So this is what wound up happening. I later learned, because Paxil knew it was just out, and then I later learned as research continued that a lot of adolescents were taking themselves out because of it. I knew because I had doubled my dose. That's why all of a sudden I had these suicidal thoughts, okay? I learned that, yes, it was addictive because if I didn't take it, I would have dizzy spells. So I knew that. But then I remember after I moved in here and finally broke up with my second husband, and I moved in where I am now, I remember one weekend saying, I'm not taking this crap. I just quit taking it. And I was sick as a dog, y'all. I was so sick, I couldn't understand why my stomach was feeling funny. I had diarrhea. I didn't want to eat. And I just started talking to the Lord. Why am I sick? What's wrong with me? And just before I went to bed, something told me, go take at least half of this pill. I took half of that antidepressant, and the next day I was fine. So I knew from that I needed to wean myself off of those meds or I was going to go through a heck of a withdrawal. Now, I just thought they'd tell y'all that. I don't know. I just all of these news stories about people being so despondent that they just want to take themselves out. When you want to take yourself out, you're feeling completely hopeless. Hopeless. And that's why I told you guys in a previous video that I had to tell myself, first of all, I had to accept and realize that I was prone to depression. I had to understand that when I was in a state of deep depression, that I was not capable of a hopeful thought. And that helped me and freed me because when I was having those kind of hopeless thoughts, and I knew I was depressed, then I knew not to believe that doggone hopelessness because I wasn't capable in that condition of being anything but hopeless. If that makes any sense to anybody. Now, I had to tell you my story because I don't want this to be all Debbie Downer. What I would like is for somebody to take some kind of hope from that. If we could just accept that when we're in a deep depression and feeling so hopeless and we just want that kind of relief, we got to understand that that's a lie that we believe in. Hopelessness is a lie because things can always get better. I did a review of Glitter and Lasers, look for that, where I went through how she was talking about how she went into a deep depression and some of the things that she told herself to pull herself out of that. You guys, it can always get better. When we are so far down, like she said in that review in Glitter and Lasers, like she said, I knew that if I'm this low down, that there's got to be a high right behind this. And sometimes we got to just tell ourselves, I feel so low, but it's got to be high. When I was in high school, clueless, going through culture shock, and totally pregnant for the first time in my life by a guy I slept with once and had absolutely no relationship with. And I got so despondent and hopeless because I couldn't go to my mom because I already talked to y'all in one of the previous videos about how she reacted to seeing her kids hurting. I didn't have anybody to go to. And there was really, back then, they weren't paying attention to any kind of mental health crap. I was just another nutcase in the dorm, far as they were concerned. But I didn't have anybody. Then with me having called the school for help, and that guy had enough sense to know that I had become suicidal because I had doubled up on my dose, that helped me. So in other words, reach out. Reach out. Reach out to somebody. Hopelessness is a lie. It's a lie. Don't do it. Don't do it. Please, please just trust me. Don't do it, because there's a better day ahead if you would just understand that you're believing a lie. That hopelessness is a lie designed to steal your destiny. Your destiny is your birthright. That's your right. It's part of who you are. It's ingrained in your walking this earth. And there are many other people who need the story of the pain that you're going through. That pain, I've lived that pain. There have been many times that I've been so down low, I might not have even in those particular circumstances thought about taking myself out. But it was such a deep, penetrating pain, and I felt so all alone. I get that. But I'm telling you to trust me enough to know that you're believing a lie of hopelessness, because your destiny does not include this kind of pain. The people you're supposed to reach will never have the benefit of you as their divine connection if you do that. Don't believe the lie. Your life is worth living. It will get better.
You say there's no hope, and no more tears to cry. You tried everything, so much to live for, and now you wanna die. I don't know your story, and you don't know mine. All I can say is this, it's gonna be alright. I lost my mother, had repossessions too, oh yes. My wife miscarried. I dealt with life lessons. I thought about it once, maybe even twice. I seen too many people die, all because of life. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Think about it. Don't do it. Take a deep breath. We need you alive. You are important. Get back up. Dry your tears. You are loved by multiple people. Believe it or not, God loves you. Think about the hurt you will leave behind you. You will only shift the pain. We love you. To those who love you, call a close friend to express your concern. Let them know what's up. Don't try to keep it all in. Listen to these words. Listen. Don't do it. Don't do it. You're better than that. Don't do it. Get up. Dust yourself off and try again. Don't do it. Get some help. Call somebody. Don't do it. Dry your tears.